Hey everyone, Eric here, and I am joined today by the man, the myth, the legend that everyone's been asking for forever and ever. Omega Welltall is back with me.
Long time no
And
see.
yeah, he's here and finally got him on board. And hopefully we'll be able to do this. I know this is going to be coming out late, but I'm shooting for like Thursdays. So hopefully by Thursdays each week we will have our reviews for Ahsoka up. And anything else that doesn't really fall into my like normal bubble of content. Because I mean, with the writers and actor strike, I mean, who knows what we're going to be talking about from month to month right now. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Ahsoka. We are going to dive into episode 3, but we're going to be talking about the show in general. Because I'm enjoying it. I didn't really ask Omega his thoughts on this. We'll ask here in a second. I'm enjoying the show. But I know there's a lot of complaints about it. We'll talk about some of the issues I've heard people scream about, complain about on social media, on Twitter and 4chan and Reddit and everywhere. But what are your thoughts right before we get into the episode? What are your general thoughts on Ahsoka, the first 3 episodes? Like, how are you feeling about the show? Honestly?
There's too many women in it. No, I'm kidding.
I figured.
No,
girl Boston everywhere.
Yeah,
right,
yeah, we'll get into that later, probably. But yeah, I am absolutely enjoying Ahsoka so far. To me, this is essentially the 5th season of Rebels to me, because it pretty much picks up right where Rebels left off.
Right. So you, like we said before we started recording, you've watched pretty much all the pre-required materials, right? For this.
Yeah, I've seen Clone Wars, seen Rebels, all.
I am a filthy noob. I am a casual. I am someone that I've only seen bits and pieces of those. I haven't seen like the whole seasons or anything like that. There was like a required watch list that I kind of looked at and I said, okay, there's a few things. Yeah. But the problem is those required watch lists don't give a lot of context. Like I'm jumping into like episode 19 of a season and I'm missing the other 18 episodes, so it's really difficult.
Well, it's so far with Ahsoka, it's not necessary to watch the rest of those, but it does give a lot of context, especially once they see like who's gonna recognize Chopper. Like unless you've seen Rebels, you're not gonna know. You're just saying, okay, it's another astromech droid, whatever. But y'all don't know that Chopper is a literal war criminal.
Oh, okay. See, little things like that, but I think those things are fun those feel to me like what I call like bonus things in shows, where if you're watching it and you know about it, it makes it better for you as a viewer. But if you watch it and you don't know, you're not missing out.
Yeah, you're not really missing
from the story elements. And that's one of the things I've been saying about Ahsoka, and a lot of people that have been complaining about it is that I am watching it with other people who also don't know anything about the previous content, other than seeing her in Mandalorian, and there was an animated movie with
Visions.
Yeah. So there's been stuff with Ahsoka in it. So they're familiar with who she is, but not really all of that backstory. And none of them really care. And a lot of them are really enjoying the show right now because they're sort of setting up the idea of like Morgan and Thrawn and, this idea of getting help from the Republic to like fight this battle and all these things that are happening. And all of that is familiar enough in terms of Star Wars that you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. But again, we're joking about the girl boss stuff, and that's one of the things I did want to talk about is that I see a lot of complaints that the show features a lot of women, but that's by design. That's what
so what? I like women. Who cares?
When did Clone Wars come out? Like 20 years ago? Was it like 20 years ago when it started?
God, we're old.
But these characters have been around for a really long time, so I don't understand why you're complaining. Why you are, but why they are
complaining now?
Complaining about it now when these are the characters that have been established for 2 decades or more.
Yeah, did anyone complain that Padme was running around on top of that giant spider thingy that was in Attack of the Clones? No.
I've heard people, and I've heard people use examples like that, and I'm like, so if you didn't complain about those things, why are you complaining about this? Because
I can tell you exactly. It's the new hot button issue. They're just doing it for clicks.
Yeah,
it riles up a certain audience, and they click and they just.
I always say they hate her, but I don't believe they do. I think they pretend to hate her because it is.
They could probably honestly don't care less. They're just pretending to hate her for the small subset, and then the small subset down like on 4chan, and then they round up their friends and they all click and just go. It's just for outrage views.
And let's talk about Sabine quickly. So Sabine is my favorite character right now.
Yeah, she's cool.
These first 3 episodes, and she is the opposite of everything that people complain about. They say that things are just handed to characters. Sabine is not getting handed anything. Matter of fact, she is getting joked on by Wang, the droid that's training her. She's garbage. Like,
yeah, she's barely force sensitive, and even if you watched Rebels, she gets joked on so badly. Well, not as much as Ezra. They all kind of everyone picks on Ezra because he's a new kid, but there's this one scene where she gets captured and like Ahsoka like pats her on the butt to get her to move. Yeah.
I mean, the impression I get of her, because again I don't know a lot about it, is that she was a Mandalorian. I don't know now when she was a Mandalorian, maybe you can fill me in on this. Was she like a traditional always wear your helmet Mandalorian, like that version, or was she more of like the
she was kind of type? Yeah, she was more the Bo-Katan type of Mandalorian. Even those two had beef with each other for a while. Okay. Because I think they did their clan was feuding or something like that, or I don't remember exactly, but yeah, they kind of had beef with each other. But then also now was one thing I also saw that on Twitter that they were saying that this is just blue hair Twitter character. I'm like, Sabine changes her hair almost every other episode. What are you talking about?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, in Rebels, that's just the thing she does.
But it looks to me like she's going to have to really fight to establish herself because so many people don't believe in her. And
she kind of proved herself a bit in Rebels. I guess she's probably trying to prove herself as a Jedi now.
That's what I was going to say.
That she's barely force sensitive. Like even if Hyung, I forget his name, I can't pronounce it. But he even said like if she was discovered by the Jedi, they would have rejected her because she's not force sensitive enough.
Right.
She's probably more than average, but not enough to be a Jedi.
And in this episode, when she's doing the training, and you have Ahsoka talking to her, saying the Force is in everybody, or that it's everyone has access to the Force. I've noticed there's not a lot of talk of the scientific side of the Force, which is the one that people complained about a lot in the prequel series with like the midichlorians and all that.
I think that was a correction from there because everyone hated that. So like, yeah, we're just not going to talk about that anymore.
So you think they're going back to more of the spiritual aspect of the Force, like
as it should have been. Being that you have all this, high tech stuff that's been going on for tens of thousands of years, and then you have the spiritual side. That's it's kind of the other side of the coin, the way it should have been. Which I think the whole midichlorian count kind of spoiled that a bit, and that's why they're probably correcting that by just not.
And that was a George Lucas thing, right? Wasn't that his idea?
Yeah. Oh God! And if y'all know the actual episode, episode 7 after Return of the Jedi. Yeah, it's supposed to be something of the wills. I forgot what it was, but it's going to basically be like these stories of these little things that live inside the midichlorians, which would have been stupid. Even George Lucas himself will say, "Yeah, everyone would have hated it." He's correct. We would have hated it. You mean
like a micro universe inside the midichlorian? Oh wow, that would.
It was like the Way of the Wills or something like that. I'm sure people would correct me. I can't remember exactly what it was supposed to be called.
So looking at what we have now, it's definitely a course correction from that. Even if you're not a fan of those things, I can't imagine that being better than what we actually have right now. So we have the Sabine storyline. Definitely not what they would call a Mary Sue. I feel like she's a good struggle. She seemed to be very capable, though. Now, in the cartoons, was she a fighter? Did she actually? Because I mean,
she had a Darksaber for a bit, and she actually was training with Ezra with it. Which is, I guess, that's why I say, okay, if you can handle the Darksaber, you could probably handle a regular lightsaber fairly well. And she does. It's just, of course, as you saw when she was training with Hyung and I can't remember. As she was training with him and Ahsoka, she had her put the blast shield down. She just couldn't do it because she's not that force sensitive.
Okay.
But other than that, she's still very capable.
Right, because one of the complaints that I saw several people making was that using a lightsaber, not being force sensitive, it felt like heresy a little bit because she's not an actual Jedi. But I mean, I don't know how I feel about that.
Like I said, if she handled the Darksaber, she can handle a lightsaber.
Right. So let's shift a little bit and talk about some of the other stuff that's been happening. So we have the Balin Skull and Shin Hada. I think it's Hada. His Padawan, I guess you could say. Now, one of the things that confused me, and I talked about this in my review, was they're not Sith; they're fallen Jedi or dark Jedi.
Yeah, kind of like Dooku wasn't a true Sith until later.
Right. So they are more or less like just independent Jedi that kind of do what they want is
Yeah,
basically
more
what
or
that
less.
is.
Yeah, that's what I'm gathering from these two. Well, three.
Now, what do you think of them so far in the show? I know they haven't done a lot yet, but I think they're really interesting characters. I don't know
Yeah, they haven't
how
done
you feel
too
about them.
much, but from what they've done so far, I'm pretty much digging these villains. It's a shame that the actor, I forget his name,
Ray
Ray.
Stevenson, yeah,
Yes,
the guy.
it's a shame he passed, but yeah, I thought he was a cool villain.
I would love to see this character go on, but again, we don't know how the season ends. Maybe he doesn't go on beyond this. Then we also have the sort of like ninja character Merrick, which is the
That's Star Killer. That's Star Killer from Force Unleashed. Calling it now. It's Star Killer.
I've heard that, but I've also heard people say it's Ezra, and I'm like, why would it be Ezra? I don't know, but I guess
I haven't heard that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ezra.
Okay. Now, is this someone part of like the First Order, or is this a separate? Because you know that Kylo had the followers.
Yeah, the Knights of Ren. No, I
yeah.
think this is something different. I mean, it's a big galaxy. Right. There's room for all of these different protagonists and antagonists and things. So yeah, there's definitely room for that. It's a big.
Now, what did you think of their saber? Their double-sided, spinny like helicopter.
I
saber?
hate the Inquisitor sabers. Because when I first saw them in Fallen Order, in Jedi Fallen Order, I was like, "What is this? This is stupid." And then when they had the one character basically just hovers away on it, and I was like, "This is dumb." I love Fallen Order. I'm not a fan of
the spinny helicopter.
I hate them. I absolutely hate the Inquisitor sabers.
So are you someone that likes more of the traditional lightsabers, like just the standard hilt and then the saber itself, or do you like some of the modifications that we've seen over the years? Because
I mean, some of the modifications, mostly like with a Dooku saber, how it's built. Even I think Christopher Lee even wanted his built like that, so it's basically has more like a actual saber, like a Shamshir or like a one of those curved sabers like that, so he could actually duel with it and hold it like a pistol instead of doing it that way. Right. Because he was a duelist and that fits perfectly. I like odd things like that, even with the cross saber, which was one of the best ideas they had for those. And even with Ezra Bridgers, I'm nerding out here. even with Ezra's lightsaber, how he has the hand guard over it and that doubles as a pistol, the most practical lightsaber design I've ever seen. Too bad it gets destroyed, but still, that was a really good design.
What about Darth Maul's? Do you like that one or no?
Actually, because I've been watching like a lot of YouTube videos, especially there's this one guy who talks about like a lot of medieval weaponry. He was even saying like the double-sided saber. Yeah, in history, it didn't really work out because it was just hard to move around. But in like a fantasy setting, it works surprisingly well. How you could just do so many different attacks like that in rapid succession. So, especially with a lightsaber, you don't need edge alignment, so it works perfectly.
Speaking of that, let's talk about Ahsoka herself. It is her show. So she's a dual saber user. She uses the two blades.
Yeah, the long and short blade.
Yeah. So she had a very interesting arc in this episode. I don't really say arc, but storyline where she was obviously being a mentor for Sabine, which is what we saw in the beginning. But then they go to, I believe the planet is called Ambien. Is that the name of the planet they went to?
I don't remember half this planet's names.
I think it's Ambien. The comments are going to eat me alive.
That sounds correct.
I got that wrong. But they go there because they're tracking down. We saw in the previous episode they looked for clues to figure out where Morgan would go, and they travel to this planet where there's a giant. It looks like a Stargate, but it's like not a jump ring. It's an actual ship with like actual drives built into it, but they're massive. And they arrive there and we get this scene where they jump out of hyper. Is it called hyper?
It's hyperspace. Yeah, it's hyperspace.
So jump out of that far away from the planet because that's a Jedi thing. Like you don't want to jump into the enemy's lair or whatever there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so they jump in and they're getting tracked down. And we see them actually going towards this ship, which I don't think they said the name of it. I don't think we know the name of that ship, unless
I don't think they mentioned that.
But anyway, so Morgan uses the ship to try and shoot down Ahsoka, and we get this battle with Ahsoka on the wings of the ship in space. Yeah, and I've seen some people complaining about that. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this? Because I think it was a cool fight.
Yeah, it was a cool fight, like visually, but it's like certain like levels of magnitudes. Like, yeah, sure, you can block a blaster bolt from a handheld gun with a lightsaber easily, but from a ship, even in Obi-Wan, where they hijacked that one shuttle when shooting that one Inquisitor with the gun from a shuttle, and she was just blocking those like it was nothing. Even then, I thought that was weird, but whatever.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of people complaining about that, and I would say from a cool standpoint, I would give it like a 10 out of 10 because I think it's a really
it was definitely cool. It was just I thought it was kind of weird.
I don't know if I'm co-signing on that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. But anyway, it happens, and they manage to get everything working, and Wang gets all the details on this ship. Now this ship, I believe, is going to be a intergalactic ship, meaning that it can travel from one galaxy to another. And is this a new thing for Star Wars? Because I honestly don't remember much about it, because usually we see like stuff happening just in
just within the galaxy itself. Yeah,
but I do remember there are intergalactic star cruisers, right, from the Empire, correct? Is that
most of that was in the Legends, especially in the comics, where they were talking about I think the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic specifically touched on that. But in terms of this, as soon as they said especially when Sabine like solved the thing and say it went to another galaxy, I immediately thought of the Yuuzhan Vong, which I'm like, they're gonna bring that in now?
So you think we're actually going to see? One of my theories was we were going to see other galaxy content on this show. Do you think that's actually going to happen, or?
Well, they've already alluded to it. Yeah, they already said, this set of coordinates goes to a whole nother galaxy, and they're building a hyperspace ring to go to a whole nother galaxy.
Really hope that we get to it sooner than later, because I don't want it to be something that happens like in the final episode.
Final episode. Yeah, just leave us with a cliffhanger. So
it's 30 minutes long. You see Thrawn kind of in the background, and that's it. That's all we get. I don't want that. I want to see something this season that alludes to that. There's also been people saying that we might get time travel. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Yeah, especially when they did this, because in Rebels, again, they had like the Nexus of the Force or some junk like that. The Nexus of Time, I forgot exactly what it was called. Basically, is where Ahsoka goes in, and I think she rescues Ezra like at the last minute or something. That whole thing is a bit controversial, because especially once you deal with time travel, things just get muddy and weird. It's like, well, why don't you go back in time and just kill Anakin right when he's in the stroller? So it's weird.
So that's the one thing where I love time travel stories and other things. I don't know has time travel ever been introduced in Star Wars before?
Not that I can remember. Probably in some Legends comic, maybe.
But not in any of the mainstream.
The main stuff, no.
So I don't remember it either. I don't know if it would make or break what Star Wars is to start introducing time travel.
That's just the thing with time travel. If you don't do it right, it really messes things up.
Because something else I don't think has ever been introduced in Star Wars, but we see it quite often on Star Trek, is the idea of the multiverse and mirror dimensions and things like that. Star Wars is kind of, as far as I can remember, because I've watched it as a kid, from my casual brain here, Star Wars is pretty straightforward. There is some mystery in it, like who is this person, or how are these people related, or whatever. There has been that kind of mystery, but I don't remember them ever doing anything at the level of like traveling to another dimension or something along those lines. Everything seems to be pretty straightforward with Star Wars. So I don't know if I would appreciate them diving into like a time travel story. It might be fun, but I don't know if it'll break Star Wars. You know what I mean? And some people would argue that Star Wars is already broken, but I think if you introduce time travel, it could be even worse. Like
that's why
we're talking about retconning at that point.
Unless they retcon those crappy 3 pre-sequels they did. Like, oh my god, don't get me started.
Well, I don't think they'd even wasted on that. I think we might be seeing like retconning all the way back to like Vader, which would be
knowing Disney, I wouldn't be surprised because all that was not done by them, so they'll retcon that so they can make it their own thing. That this is Disney now, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did that.
A lot of people say that there's been shots of like Anakin supposedly filming for the show. I don't know if it's true. This is the rumor.
I remember that.
So if Anakin was filming, then I pretty much guarantee there's time travel involved.
Yeah, because it did say it was like an alternate, like say, what if Anakin didn't fall?
Right.
That's right.
Which means no Darth Vader, which means like literally...
No, now that I'm thinking about it, yes, there was some like kind of alternate universe type things. It was mostly in the Legends comics, where actually someone may have been in more recent comics, but basically it's kind of where Anakin kind of just goes back and looks into the Force and kind of sees like what would have happened if he didn't fall, or what if Luke actually redeemed Vader. You
know what? I don't really mind the idea of a what if, like we're watching it, but I don't know if I'd want it to change the main timeline. You know what I mean? Like if it were a one-off, like Elseworlds, what if story, something like that, I'd be like, go ahead and do it. Like, that's fine. But if it's going to be the main Star Wars timeline, the one that we're in watching all of these shows in, I don't know if I'd appreciate that or not. Before we talk about,
I was going to say just one last thing is like if they do like glimpses here and there, it's like here's what, like kind of like a what if.
Yeah,
sure.
So before we talk about the squid whales that fly, because I do want to talk about those for a second, I do want to bring mention to the Syndulla storyline, the Hera Syndulla, where she was talking to the New Republic about getting assistance to help with the, with Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah.
And we got some interesting stuff. We got, I think it was was it the Council is what they called them?
Yeah.
And we had Mon Mothma, which I was like, oh, I didn't know we were going to see her.
Yeah, which I like that actress who portrays her. She's good.
Yeah. But then we had several other senators, and one of them seems like he might be in bed with like the opposition. He's a op.
Yeah, because when they went to that one shipyard, and they were all saying, long live the Empire. So I would not be surprised if they got someone that high up.
Because he's like, what would you say that you have a vested interest in this? Is there, why would you ask for our help now? All of a sudden that it's Thrawn makes me believe that they know that all of this is actually happening and they're trying to deflect from it. And I think she knew better as well. And it barely touched on what I believe she has a history with all of this, like a really tragic history from what people were telling me when it comes to what happened with the Empire and stuff like that. So, especially Thrawn, because didn't she lose her family to Thrawn? Wasn't her family killed by Thrawn? Or am I
misremembering? Yeah. Yes, Thrawn was responsible for most like her family dying. Because I think her family ended up being like like guerrilla fighters or something like that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact episode. She actually reconciled with her father, but I think he ended up dying later on in the season. I can't remember.
Okay. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. I wish we got a little bit more of that, but this was a shorter episode. I think it was only
it's like 30 some minutes.
Yeah. So last thing I want to talk about before we just kind of talk about a few like edgy topics, I guess, wrap this up, is the Purgils. So the whale squid thingies that can basically jump into like hyperspace and fly, these routes. What do you know about these things? Because I know we saw one of them in Mandalorian. There was like a shot of one with like Grogu when they was on the ship. And I know that people that are very much, in love with Star Wars know about these things, but they're saying that is where they use them to track like intergalactic travel because of their abilities. So what exactly are Purgils for people that don't know?
Okay, the Purgils are basically these I can't remember they live within interstellar space. That's words are pretty interstellar wildlife. They basically kind of like whales. They kind of just float through space, and they have a natural hyperdrive. They just kind of naturally just go through hyperspace lanes like it's just like a migration or whatever. Now during Rebels, there was I forget which episode it was. Basically, I remember the episode. They were actually trying to infiltrate this one mining asteroid or whatever, but they were shooting off the Purgil because the Purgil was actually in their feeding grounds. No, the space station was in the Purgil's feeding grounds. Had it the other way around. Anyway, so during the episode, Ezra, he kind of has this weird force ability where he can reach out to animals and wildlife and kind of basically trying to kind of charm them, whatever. So he reached out to the Purgils. The Purgils helped them move out the Empire from this asteroid belt or whatever. And now during the final episodes of the last season, basically the last few episodes of Rebels, he uses the Purgil to actually attack Thrawn's flagship and then just basically just hyperspeed it away somewhere no one knows. That was pretty much the end of that episode or season from there. So now, they're basically just giant space whales that migrate from star to star.
Okay, that makes sense. And I was gonna say we haven't seen a lot of them in the more mainstream.
They're a fairly new thing. I think they were just introduced in Rebels. Then they kind of just expanded upon them.
Right, that makes sense. Now are they like aggressive or are they more docile?
They're peaceful. They're just like giant space blue whales.
Okay, all right. So I'm assuming we're going to see more of that throughout Ahsoka because
Mhm.
it seems like they're going to be an important part of this storyline, or
Yeah.
it could be completely like not anything. But I'm hoping that it is going to be something important
Yeah.
with the storyline. So for me, I'm enjoying the show. I'm seeing a lot of negative videos on YouTube and on social media about things like, you know, it being too cartoony, and I'm like, it came from a fucking cartoon.
Yeah, this
That's
is
where the
like I said
characters came
before, it's
from.
the 5th season of Rebels. Yeah, it's gonna be cartoony. Who cares? It's
Yeah.
Star Wars. It's people with it's people with freaking laser swords and space magic. And you're complaining that it's a cartoon? Seriously, dog?
But that's what I mean though. Like the people that love these characters and love these stories, the ones that this show was kind of made for another season of Rebels, like you said, they love the idea that it is more cartoony because that is what the show is based on.
It's Star Wars. Of course it's cartoon. You expect like some real raw dog like drama like the Wire or something.
They want John Wick with lightsabers.
And even that's cartoony. He kills somebody with a pencil, and that's not cartoony. Come on.
You're right. I don't know what they expect, honestly, but I will say that like the idea of your immersion being destroyed by a series that takes place literally in space.
Yeah, it's like if anything, like I said, when she was deflecting blaster from a freaking spaceship, I was like, okay, whatever. I thought it was weird, but it's Star Wars. Who cares?
All right, so now that we've talked about the episodes, I want to know if you were rating this 1 to 10, just this one episode episode 3. What would you rate episode 3, and what would you rate like all of the episodes so far? Like rating for 3, and then rating for the first 3 episodes.
Okay, rating for the third one, I would say I want to give it an 8, but being that was so short and kind of just left you hanging a little bit, probably gonna give like maybe a 7.5, like a solid 7. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was just too short.
I would say for me it's probably an 8, but that's because I'm a casual, so I'm gonna go with that. What is your score for like the first 3 episodes so far?
First 3 episodes, I would say, the first 3 altogether, probably average that out to about 8.5, probably 9. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them, especially when they were in the shipyard and we had Chopper, which basically going, well, why don't you shoot it down? And we're above a city, and that's Chopper. He is people literally say he is a war criminal. Look up Chopper war criminal. You will see exactly what I'm talking about. No, he has at least 50,000 casualties to his name. Not even kidding.
Wow. For me, I gave the first 2 episodes 9s collectively because I like the first 2 episodes, and I would say the third for me is around an 8. So I guess if you're averaging it out like an 8.5 for me, I guess for all 3 of them. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm excited to continue down this path with Ahsoka, Sabine, all the characters. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Sabine's still my favorite character on Ahsoka show, so we'll see where.
Yeah, she was on my favorites in Rebels, so yeah, that tracks.
So, but anyway, we're going to be doing this every week. Myself and Omega schedule right now is Thursdays. This is going to be a day late, but Thursdays is when we're going to release these episodes. We might do them live as well, depending on how things work out. But thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit up Omega on all of his socials. I'll link them in the description box, so you can do that. Follow me on socials and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and leave a like and leave a comment. Are you enjoying Ahsoka, and what do you think of the girl boss energy? Can't wait to hear what you have to say. All right, everyone, take care. Bye.